por escuchar otro episodio más de Empodérate de Chicanos por la Causa. ¡Empezamos! Bienvenidos a otro episodio más de Empodérate de Chicanos por la Causa. We are having such a great time today. Especially because we're really celebrating community because we're excited to share this space about everyday leaders coming together and sharing their challenges and stories behind it and what makes them unique and how they help, build community. And one of them is Fatima, who is joining us today as the co-host, previously behind the scenes and now in front of the camera. Hello, Fatima. So Fatima is a little shy this morning, but she's been an instrumental member of this team to be able to put our podcast together. So thank you, Fatima, for joining us this morning.
Glad to be here.
And of course, Stephanie Vasquez. I don't think you need any introduction. We've known Stephanie out and about in the community, bringing everybody together, embracing businesses and taking them to the next level. How are you?
I'm doing so good. I'm excited to be here and thank you for that. I absolutely love doing things in community. I feel like I was asked, I'm going to just jump right in.
Yeah, please.
I was asked one day if I feel like I'm living my purpose. And I think that's such a loaded question because all of us at some point in time ask ourselves, like, is this what I'm supposed to do? However, everywhere I go, there is community and I absolutely love it. Absolutely love working in our community.
It really energizes you, right?
Or it drains you.
Well,
I mean, one or the other.
Or both on the same day sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, real talk.
Thank you. Yes. So let's start from the beginning. Let's get to know you a little bit more. So I just found out that you're from Maryville. So you grew up in Maryville. So tell us about that experience.
So born and raised in the West Valley. And I mean, really my whole life, that's where I was until Fair Trade Cafe. However, I went to Maryville, then Phoenix College, and then ASU. And I was the first in my family to graduate. And I always wanted to be a teacher. So in 2004, I graduated and I got my first set of classroom keys to an 8th grade science room at Santa Maria Middle School. And really, that's where I thought, like, that was it. This is exactly what I want to do my entire life. And here I sit. And I'm sure we'll talk about the nonprofit that I started and my coffee shop and all the other things. However, I'm definitely teaching in different ways now.
Absolutely. And I can see that. I can see those skills put into good use up to now. So, so Maryville was a different neighborhood over the years has changed a lot. How was it for you growing up? Were you just feel like it was?
Well, it was normal for me.
It was normal.
I mean, I grew up in Maryville in the 90s. This is when we had the racial riots.
Yeah.
It was very intense looking back. However, that was my normal, like having police officers on, with the shield things and the fights and the gunshots.
Lunch hour.
Yeah, that was, and now that I'm an adult and a mother.
Yes.
I look at my life experiences a little bit different because even now I hear gunshots and there's not a huge reaction because it was just very normal for us. Even when we'd hang out with our friends, it was just normal to hear it. So Maryville's a beautiful neighborhood.
Yes.
I don't want it to be known for those things because I grew up in a very community rich neighborhood where the neighbors, we all took care of each other. We all knew each other. Like it was, I'm very grateful that is where, I proudly say it all the time, that's where I grew up and came from. Because I do think that Maryville needs to be known for the families and the community and the people that come out of Maryville.
and the vibrancy and the energy that businesses bring to that neighborhood, our neighborhood. It's been amazing, especially when you saw the a little bit the slowdown with COVID, but eventually how creative our communities are into helping each other and then turning what they had before into something else and just continue to move forward.
Yeah, it's that village mentality.
Absolutely.
You know, I remember my parents, they would feed people that were hungry. There was times that we had people that were homeless living in our home. And this was just normal for us. Yeah. This is how we did it. If we had food, everyone would eat.
Yeah, donde comen uno, comen dos.
Right.
A very yes. So Fatima, you've known Stephanie as well, but you've been in events with her too as well, and you have a special connection too that you were wanting to talk about.
So I was part of a special event where Stephanie was a panelist. And one of the stories that really resonated with me was you speaking about your inner child and how you have a little picture of yourself on your mirror. I just, would you be able to elaborate on that and share that? I feel like that's very special.
For sure. Mm-hmm. I feel like everything in our lives we create one way or another. We have some responsibility in it. And there's things that may have happened to us. And I like to look at it for us, even in challenging times, as hard as that is.
Yep.
And like that inner child, and we think about how we were raised and maybe some of the things that we experienced and how we faulted others and held anger for that. And so part of my healing process was acknowledging these things. And I shared on this panel, I was at the Amor Amigas, and I shared on the panel how I acknowledged the little girl that got me here today. So I have a picture. If I would have known, I would have taken a picture so I could show you. But I have a picture of me when I was a tiny, like maybe 8 months old. And then another one when I was about 9 years old. And every morning after I do my morning stuff, I look at each picture and I'm like, thank you so much for getting me here. And then I talk to that Stephanie and thank you, Stephanie, for getting me here. And eventually I'll talk to this Stephanie when I'm a grandma and thank me for getting me here, you know?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And especially because I think an image just like, it really gets you to the point in your life that is important to keep you grounded, right? There are times where, a special picture really just brings you joy, just joy. And you see it and I'm like, I remember I was so happy here.
Yeah.
And I remember how my life was around this. And then the other side that you have to, also look now and say, this is where I am. And I love and I thank myself for it.
And one day I'm going to look at a picture of me here now.
Yes.
I think it's also like a really great representation that version of myself really did something to grow into the next version and into the next version. And it's really just acknowledging, like, you did that. You did that.
That's amazing. I love it. So how was the transition, the career, like from teacher to business owner to community leader? Tell us about how fair trade came into mind.
It was bumpy. And I have lots of scars. I had gone to Costa Rica and I was just going as a traveler and I hadn't traveled much at all. And, the crocodile tours and all the things that you do in Costa Rica. And the last day we went to a coffee plantation and I had no idea. And I always share this because when a person makes a decision, you can change your life. And I think that's what happened. So I had no idea that coffee came from a plant. I had no idea. I just thought it was this beautiful drink that I enjoyed every day. And here I am owning the longest standing coffee house in downtown Phoenix. And I didn't even know that about coffee.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
16 years.
Yeah, 16 years.
In a coffee shop, independently owned, women owned. I'm like,
thank you.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
I don't know of anyone else that
it's been a journey.
What you're doing right now.
It's definitely been a journey. I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I wanted to. And I think that's why I say when a person makes a decision that this is what I'm going to do, there's really not a whole lot that can stop that person if they truly made that decision. And I made a decision that this is what I was going to do. So here I am.
That's amazing. And now it's going, it's your example certainly resonates with your children. You're talking about, you already also have your daughter. It's also a business owner and just doing such an amazing things.
Yeah, the power of representation. I don't think that I understood how huge it was until not even my own children, because our children, that's our norm. You know, this is normal, you know, when I saw other people's children and they would say certain things. And, you know, I also share a story about a little girl who came to a Mercado once and told her mom, like, Mom, they all look like me. And the next thing you know, this little girl started a business. And it was just seeing that she could. And when you see that you can, you will. And that's just very, very powerful. And there's some responsibility in it too, you know, but I mean, it's to change the trajectory of generations. You know,
you see a path.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You see that is attainable. And whether you've considered it before or it never crossed your mind, it becomes real. Yeah. And it's so powerful. Like you say, we all remember that moment when you saw somebody and then you said, like, I can do this too.
Do that. Yes.
It is amazing. So tell us about E.L.L.A.
E.L.L.A, yes. So we were talking before this all started, and yes, you may look at everything and think, oh, what a great strategic plan to start a nonprofit. That was not a plan. It was not. I have not planned most of my life. So E.L.L.A came about because in 2016, I was asked by the mayor to speak on Latina Equal Pay Day. And I wasn't super well versed in the gender pay gap. However, I did some research and I was mind blown. My soul was shook.
Right?
Yes. That at the time,
every time you see it,
Latinas were making 46 cents to a man's dollar for the same exact work. And I just thought, this is now. We're not talking about like our grandma's time. This is now. And so again, I'm like, okay, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do? So what I decided to do is because no one was talking about it at the time. So I decided that we would have what we call now Mujeres Mercado outside of Fairtrade Cafe on a first Friday to bring awareness around Latina Equal Pay Day. And we would do it on Latina Equal Pay Day. Now, that date changes every year because it's basically how much time does it take a Latina to make the same amount of money. So last year it was in November. It almost takes a full year now.
Oh my God.
For us to make the same amount of money. So what I did is I just invited a bunch of business owners because they're creating their own ceilings and creating their own paths, and that we would really shine a bright light on them. Because for you to do something like that, you're taking a step, a big step, a bold one. So fast forward, like 30 minutes into the event, everyone's like, Stephanie, when's the next one? When's the next one? And I mean, there was not street markets at the time, and I wasn't planning on another one. However, now we have a 501c3 called E.L.L.A, Empowering Latina Leaders in Arizona. We have two flagship programs. The first one is the Mujeres Mercado, which is the largest outdoor market or largest outdoor women's market. And we just in August opened up the Amor Collective. Because during our work for the Mujeres Mercado, I was seeing, okay, Arizona, we've got good weather, like, I don't know, 6 months, 9 months out of the year. So what happens to these businesses Monday through Thursday when it's super hot? What happens to these brands? Everything's just stopped. So we needed something more consistent. And if you look at it, the risk from going from pop-up to storefront is a huge investment, and you really don't know if it's going to work. So I just thought we need like an incubator space that's surrounded in community and grounded in love, where we can truly experiment and explore and test our brands in the mainstream market. So this is where Amor came from.
And touch different people throughout this panel discussions and event and space. And one of them is Fatima. You were talking about a specific moment that you had there when you had the opportunity to just be there and be among those women and sharing their stories.
Yeah, and Amor Collective, I think anytime I go there, it's as well as your cafe. I can understand why it's been one of the longest standing in downtown, or it is the longest standing in downtown Phoenix, just because everyone has that. Every time I go there, or to Amor Collective, Fair Trade Cafe, it's always like out of this world experience, kind of like it's a safe environment where everyone just feels included and empowered, and you just feel like part of a community, which makes it really special. And going off of that, my question to you is, I'm curious about what has, running your own nonprofit and your own business and, being at this level where you are of success, like what has that taught you about people?
That we can all change. And that there's so much power in people and in collaboration. And none of these, I know you say when I reach this level of success, thank you for seeing that. However, none of it could have possibly been possible if you didn't walk in the door and if you didn't walk in the door. If everyone decided to walk into a different door today, what wouldn't run, and Fair Trade Cafe wouldn't be here. Like, we did that. Yes, I may own it. However, the community built it. It was us that did it. And it was in a time, like you say, you feel like you're a part of a community when you're there. That makes me feel so good, because really, I used to shy away from people like, there's something about it. I don't know what it is. I know what it is. It's love. Like, you can feel the love. And it's something that's it's kind of like chocolate. How do you explain what chocolate tastes like if you've never had it?
But we feel your love, Stephanie, because I come in and I think about you at Fair Trade and the commitment that you put aside from raising your family and then growing a business. It's more than that. It's about community and bringing others along with you. And I think that's really evident everywhere that you go. You're fearless.
Thank you.
And then you're unapologetic. I love it.
I try to be. Some days it's a little harder than others.
So we were talking earlier, speaking of learning and unlearning, right? I mentioned the word resilience. Tell me about how you feel about that and why.
Well, I think there's stages of resiliency, and there's a point in time where you're like, I'm a resilient. I already proved that. Now it can be easy. It can be easy now. I don't need to be resilient anymore. And I was saying that a lot of times women, it's almost like a point of pride where it's like, oh, you women are so resilient. Well, if we unpack that, how is it that we've become resilient? And it's through trials,
right?
And a lot of bumps,
right?
So sometimes it's enough. It's enough. It could be easy now. So it's almost like I just want everyone to know that it could be easy now. So let's all just make it easy.
Let's make it easy with each other. There's also a particular story. We were talking about shoes earlier. But Fatima has a different story that you were thinking about, Stephanie.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, okay, please.
A story that I was hoping that I've heard before, but I was really hoping that you would share it with our audience, was about how you reward yourself specifically with shoes.
I love that. You were listening. See? Yes. So I'm a worker. I am a doer, and I get lost sometimes in work. I feel like I used work to define myself. So to slow myself down and to acknowledge the work, because a lot of times you're checking boxes.
You're right.
I did this. And okay, that's great. But are you present in what you're doing? Do you realize what you did?
Right.
And did you feel it? So what I like to do to slow myself down and also acknowledge my work rather than just on to the next is I have a few vices, and shoes is one. I love shoes.
Me too.
I love shoes.
Shoes. Oh, yeah, that's listening. She's wearing some Fearless rhinestone rhinestone red shoes. That's right. And also a leather jacket with jeans. I'm like, it doesn't get any more fearless than that, ladies and gentlemen.
The power of community.
I love it. So that gives you an opportunity to really stop and reward yourself.
Well, what I do is when I buy the shoes, I write on the top, the box on the inside, and I write what I did. Like how I was, what I had, the person that I had to be,
right,
to get whatever it was. Like for Amor, I bought myself a pair of shoes when I opened Amor because it was a lot of work. And on the inside of the box, it says the date, it says what I did. And it's a reminder because when you step into those shoes, you're stepping into that woman that created whatever it is that I created at the time, and I'm stepping into that. And it's just like harnessing power instantly.
I love it. We should, I need to start doing that.
Go buy yourself a pair of shoes.
Shoes and dresses and purses. So speaking of your journey, the everyday of running a business, but if it's like a service, like a restaurant and a coffee shop, that's a 24/7 many times. Mm-hmm. Anything can go wrong and right.
Yes.
But then on top of that, you added E.L.L.A. And then through E.L.L.A., then you have now the Amor Collective as well. And so everything can feel really glamorous and all like really easy to do. But share us about the story of how you manage change and then you face challenges throughout the different hats that you wear.
Yeah. And I don't want to say that it's easy. I think that would be unfair. It's work. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of work. And it's a lot of different hats, sometimes at the same time. Mm-hmm. However, I think before I leave my house, I do work. I get grounded, I meditate, I clear my mind so that I know when I get in my car and I leave my home, I've taken care of myself and my home and my children, and I'm ready for whatever it is that's going to happen because I have no control. And I know that. I have no control for what I'm going to walk into. Who knows what's going to happen at the cafe? And every day it's something different. Yes. And then when you go to Amor is a whole different vibe. You just don't know what your day is going to bring. So really, I personally make sure that I take care of myself first because I cannot help and I cannot fix and I cannot do anything.
You can't fill anyone's cup if you don't fill your own first.
No, if your tank is empty, there's no way you're going to fill anyone else's tank. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I had to unlearn and relearn because my mom, she took care of us and she cooked and she cleaned and she did everything. And sometimes I just look at her now and I'm like, I do not know how you did it. There was 4 of us. I do not know how she did it. So, I had to learn that I have to take care of myself first. Mm-hmm. And that it's not selfish. It's not irresponsible. That I'm a better mother. I'm a better boss. I'm a better fill in the blank when I am taken care of.
And sometimes, in addition to telling yourself that, you need to teach others to understand that.
Yeah, I could share a story about that. Please one. My youngest son, out of all the children, he is quite the personality. Mm-hmm. And one day he says, well, you're supposed to do that. And I said, why? And he says, well, because you're my mom. And I said, what does that mean to you? What is me being your mom? What is that? What's the definition? And did I agree to that? Because I have my own definition. And he and I had this 11-year-old conversation at the time about what his expectations were, what my expectations were, what my definition was. And I was like, I'm the mom. I get to define what being a mom means.
Right.
Not your expectations. And he's very candid and he'll say there's no filter on that little boy. Even now, there's no filter. But it was really interesting. Like when you start having those real conversations, like, okay, you might see me this way, but let me tell you my definition of me. you know, and I think it's important for us to define ourselves.
Absolutely. And others hear what our definition is and how certainly different maybe. But yeah, the time about giving yourself and putting yourself first, it's a process. Absolutely, for not only yourself, but in others, also for others. This is time for me, like, pretend I'm not here because this is like my time so I can get back at it.
Yes, I can put these shoes back on. Yes.
So Fatima, we were looking at Stephanie's emails when you were coordinating the interview.
Oh, yes. So while I was coordinating this interview along with Stephanie, I noticed that your signature, it says reality is a projected thought. And I think it must mean a lot to you for you to have it as your signature because it's sent back and forth anytime you send an email. So I just wanted to know, like, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I leave crumbs. I try to leave crumbs everywhere I go. And if someone picks it up, there's something
being picked up.
There's something to eat. I think everything is created twice. Like we were sitting in this room and someone thought of this before it was real. And now we're sitting in someone's thought. Like reality is your projected thought and you're creating your reality moment by moment, day by day. And I think that like when you sit in that, like the power that you have for yourself is immense. Absolutely immense. I mean, we were talking about how I had my son in high school. If you look at it, I grew up in Maryville. I fit in a lot of statistics, And I am doing what probably most people didn't think I could ever do. But this is my reality. It was my projected thought that got me here. And when you sit in that and like harness that power that it doesn't matter what I think of you. It doesn't matter what any of you guys think of me, with all due respect. It's what I think and what I'm going to do and the decision I'm going to make. And that's what that signature means.
I love it.
Yeah. That's really, really, really good. Esther, that's a really good point. It is about how we see each other and what we think of each other, and the decisions stem from there, because no one else is going to leave our lives. It's us who need to make those decisions.
I think it gives you a sense of control too.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. But, and also it's like, okay, this might be where I'm at right now. Where do I want to be? And what am I willing to do to get there? And that it doesn't matter your parents, your partner, your children, your team. It doesn't matter. Like it's you. At the end of the day, it's just you. So what are you going to do? And that's sometimes I look at myself after I say thank you to those little Stephanies, and I'm like, and I look at this Stephanie, I'm like, all right, Stephanie, what are you going to do?
So then you have different, different processes and reminders that you do. Is there anything anything specific also that you do in those moments when you have no more energy to give, that you just feel that your tank is just empty, and that you're going to get up? Because I can see that in you, that you're going to get up. But there are moments where I'm assuming that your tank is empty. So what do you do to
I cry? I do all the things that most of us do, Maybe it's that chocolate cake. Maybe, it just depends. It really depends on what it is, However, when I'm going to get back up, now that's a different story. When I know I'm going to get back up after I've cried, after I've eaten the cake, after I've screamed and yelled and complained and said it's everyone else's fault. And then when I sit down, I'm like, no, Stephanie, what are you going to do? Then, all right, I'll make sure I drink. I make sure I drink good water. I make sure I eat well. I'll exercise in the morning. I have my morning routines. I'm like, I get back on it. Like, okay, I threw my fit. That's not what is going to help me. Yeah, I might get a little bit of it out, but what is really going to get me back on? And you get back on. And it's discipline. It's being able to discipline yourself. Because I don't have a boss. Sometimes I wish I did.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Sometimes I wish I did.
You have, you have everyone counting on you.
Well, and also me counting on me.
And you,
like Stephanie, it's no one else's fault. Like it's
you. Don't want to be disappointed in yourself.
Yes. Yeah. So it's like, okay, let's get back on.
That's right.
I think it also shows just like how understanding how everyone has different ways of coping with things, whether it being eating chocolate cake, crying it out. It's just like everyone has their own process of letting it go. And once you let it go, then it comes to, okay, now let's look for the solution. What are we going to do?
Yeah. And I'll even ask myself, how long are you going to let this go? Like, how long is it going to take you? Because it's up to you. There's only so much, chocolate cake and crying and being angry. You know what I mean? Like, and then you got to fix that now too. So you're right.
There's only so much chocolate cake to go around.
Yeah. So I mean, we could sit in things for a long time, but it's
not make a decision at all, and not move on.
No. And you're stuck.
Yes.
You're literally just sitting there floating.
Yeah.
And one day's gone by, and two, and you don't get those days back. Like, you don't get it back. And it's okay. It's okay. You want to stay in bed. You want to do those things. That's okay. But for me, like, all right, let me feel this, release it, and get back on.
That's right.
I'm trying to squeeze all the juice out of this lemon.
You're right. Well, is there anything else that you want? I'm like, you ahorita nos dejaste con tanto to process, and I love it. It's true. We need to make sure we fully understand each other and be our number one person and then discipline, how important it is to be able to, and then community and leaning on them the way that they're leaning also on you. Amor Collective, it's an amazing project, Stephanie, and then Mujeres Mercado, tell us also about that. You're touring the States now with that project.
We are. It's so incredible to see. It's magical what actually can happen, because you have this idea that you're going to do something and you do it, and then sometimes I think like, oh my gosh, that worked. Oh my gosh, that worked. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought? But yeah, we now, people are, different cities bring us out, different states, and we travel and we create community everywhere we go. And yes, it's done with the business community, but really when we look at the ecosystem of community, there's so many elements of it, and we make sure that we bring them all in.
Yeah. You're right. Well, we appreciate you coming here. I know it took some time in the middle of another whirlwind. So much more appreciated the fact that, you took the time to be present here with us today. Share your challenges, being so authentic as you always are, and fearless and we always learn something new. I love fearless over resilience. Let's do that.
Yes, let's please. Please.
Fatima, thank you for coming and joining our show today.
Yeah, I was glad to be part of the conversation, especially for my first episode. I'm really glad it was with you, Stephanie.
Oh, thank you. This really has been good. It feels, this is what friendship feels like.
Yeah.
So thank you guys.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. We'll be right back with our next episode next week, every Thursday, aquí en Empodérate.